Thank you. Appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Great to see you again. And we have a very special guest today. This is somebody who is very interesting. He has a really fascinating career from his time in the United States Army. And for those of you who are looking for highly technical roles, this is something I really do recommend you think about. Kyle is a prime example of how military leadership can be successfully translated into the highest levels of corporate strategy. After serving over 6 years in the U.S. Army, where he held pivotal roles as a logistics officer and a company commander, including tours in Afghanistan, Kyle navigated the transition to the civilian sector by leading into his education and his learned expertise from the military. Following his service, Kyle earned both an MBA and an MS in business analytics from the University of Colorado Boulder. Go Buffs. And this powerful combination of boots on the ground leadership and advanced data literacy paved his way into his entry into the corporate world. He joined Crocs through a highly competitive MBA rotational program, gaining exposure into brand finance and international business analytics, which has taken him to Singapore and around the world. Today, Kyle serves as the business analytics manager for Crocs, headquarters in Broomfield, Colorado, near and dear to my heart. He is here to share his journey from the motor pool to the boardroom, offering his insights on leveraging how military experience can land you that Fortune 500 experience. Kyle, thank you very much. It's great to see you again after this conversation. I hope that celebration was fun and exciting for that individual who's being celebrated. And I want to kick it off like I told you earlier this morning. Tell us your origin story. You're a Marvel superhero. What got you to the United States Army?
Yeah, so hi everyone. Thanks for spending some time with me this afternoon. So it's a pretty normal story, I think, just kind of like everyone else's background here. So I grew up in Texas. I went to school at the Texas State University, where I had no idea what the military was doing. On day one of orientation, I saw someone in uniform, and I was like, "What are you doing here?" And he walked me to the ROTC building and they offered me a scholarship. And the next thing you knew, I was signed up to be in the Army, not having no idea what was going on. So I commissioned just from a normal economics kind of like degree background where I played sports and everything growing up and things like that. But my time in the Army, commissioned as an infantry officer, and it was 6 years with a couple trips here and there. But I think we all, as we're all on this call, we reach a natural transition point, where you decide that this is no longer for me. And I had reached that after company command and said, okay, let's get out. I put in my UQR packet in June of 2019, not knowing what was coming up that next year. So lots of exciting things dealing with kind of the uncertainties of COVID and everything like that. But just a normal kind of, you go to school, you join the army, and then, no idea what's going to happen next. That's for sure. Are your troops that bad? They are all right. I loved my soldiers, but I think everybody does, right? Except for the ones that, keep you up at night.
I'm pleased to say that I was not one. My company commander definitely appreciated me. Let's talk about your journey from the Army, getting your MS in business analytics, and how did you decide that data was the right language for you for your new career?
Yeah, so I had no idea kind of what I wanted to do when I get out. I'm sure that's a very common sentiment for most people, especially as you're doing a full, transition, your whole career, your 9 to 5, what's sucking you up all day. So I got out with the intention of wanting to go back to school. So I wanted to go to grad school where I found a program at CU where they did a MBA as well as an MS in analytics. And so I just kind of saw that as an opportunity. Originally, I was going to go live in New York, but in April of 2020, there was no world in which I was moving to New York City. So me and my wife decided to just, see what seems like the best place to live in the world. And that was in the mountains. We were very happy with that decision. But I didn't really know data. Just like a lot of you on the call might not really necessarily know data. It's really not that intimidating of a field to get into. And it's so young, it's so immature, essentially, as we go from like, descriptive analytics, I say like, my revenue is X $100 million all the way, you want to get that descriptive all the way into predictive analytics, where we're expecting our revenue to be this, right here. So just a few years is all it really takes to understand that like technical, baseline to be able to just make yourself dangerous, really. So I got my MBA because that's what people do, right? You're like, oh, I'll just get out of school, get my MBA, and I'll get a job. And then it turns out you can just keep pushing that decision off because outside in all these industries, there's just so much variety that we're not exposed to, particularly in the military, of like what jobs are available. And so I found out after grad school, they have these MBA rotation programs where companies will just hire you and they'll say like, you still don't know what you want to do? Like, come on in and we'll let you figure it out here. So I found one of these rotation programs. I started off in the finance sector of our organization. I was doing financial analyst for essentially how we like cost goods into the organization for Crocs. And then I went into our IT department for my next role, and it was Kismet. I found a good little fit within the organization and just started getting a little deeper and more dangerous from there. So it's just kind of seeking opportunity. That's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing because we do have a lot of technical people here, like I told you earlier this morning, versus doing like cyber work, like cyber defense or SOX or anything like that. Like, what gets you going? Like, what really made you go down this path besides Crocs gave you the opportunity from CU? Like, what excites you every day? Get up and go to Broomfield and get it done.
So I'm very lucky. My role right now, just for the team, is I am the manager of all international analytics here at Crocs. And so when I was getting out of the army, I was looking for two things in particular, really, out of like my next career. It was to semi enjoy the work that I was doing. I enjoyed what I was doing in the army, but I wasn't happy necessarily. It's tough to be happy when you're on staff duty, right? Or so it was to enjoy it and it was to travel. And so I wanted to kind of find a role that offered me the chance to see the world, and not the way that the army had me see the world in deserts and woods in Fort Polk, Louisiana. Um,
Oh,
and
yeah.
what I've particularly enjoyed and what I've found, and I think this is just advice for anybody, is especially mid-sized organizations and small, I'm sure large ones too, is we have no idea what we're doing at the end of the day. If you see an opportunity within the organization and you can present that opportunity and say like, here's how I can fill this role and this is why it's important to the company, they'll be like, oh, thank goodness you found it. Okay, here, go and do it. And so I found a role within our data organization that we didn't have essentially an international presence, particularly in Asia, supporting all of our customers here. And so my job was created out of just seeing an opportunity, saying, hey, there's no one in Asia handling our data. How about I go and do that? And they said, well, perfect. You've found the need, so you're the perfect fit for it. Go and live in Singapore for a year. So I just kind of found my desire to travel, and it found me a job, really. Yeah.
I like that, and I do want to kind of piggyback on that because when people are thinking Crocs, they're thinking, put the the Hey Dude shoes or the Croc shoes on. You entered it via the MBA program at CU. Do you really see those programs to where you can get your foot into the door as the true hidden gem for veterans? And how did that differentiate from your standard job application?
Yeah. So I would say like being a veteran got me this job, completely as a whole. It's what helped differentiate me across the other kind of groups within, the Boulder, Colorado region. So that was really nice. I think with these rotation programs, what they're looking for is they're just looking for a good fit. They're looking for a good personality that's going to kind of understand what leadership is telling you and to work abstractly. So I think we can take our experiences and say that, yes, I have dealt with kind of like abstract work. I can deal with timelines and taking, something from the conception all the way into delivery of a product, really. The concept of, going through a live fire process is, almost relatively similar. I'm going to plan for it, I'm going to do it, and then we're done. Uh, what I found, particularly within the organization, at least with my peers, is they have difficulty kind of like sticking with a process. And that's something that we love to do, don't we? Coming from the military, it's just, I know which way I'm going to do it, and then I'll just do it this time every single time, right?
I love it. Love it, love it, love it, 100%. Walk us through your day in the life. What is your day to day look like besides being a manager? What are you doing every single day for those who are interested in, data analytics from that consumer perspective? So that way we kind of frame that picture.
Yeah, what's nice about IT and everything in general, I think this is like all corporate jobs, is every day is different. So I know that I'm probably going to have 200 emails a day. I'm going to ignore 180 of them. I'm going to have all of my Teams messages. But really, stakeholder and relationship management is the most important thing that I do, even in data analytics. We all have the same jobs. We're all interacting with people. I'm taking requirements from either the business side of it, where I take the requirements from our senior vice president of planning, right? He says he wants to view this data in a specific way. All I'm doing is I'm taking those requirements, I'm packaging them in a way that makes sense for my data engineers, and then they're delivering it. And so as a manager, even in IT or planning or anything like this, all I'm doing is I'm just like owning processes and then owning relationships, whether that's internal to my company or external as I'm dealing with it. My job in particular, for those who want to work internationally, I'll say like day of my life is I'm usually having meetings at 6 a.m. with India or Europe. And then you get to have the joy of having meetings in the evenings with Asia and Singapore if you want to go visit Japan and stuff like that. They're not going to be on until like 9 p.m. So long days, but very rewarding days, that's for sure. Yeah.
I love it for sure. Was there a culture shock for you when you went to Crocs? Because, I know their culture quite a bit. They're fun, they're casual, but it is a hyper growth brand that has a lot of different moving parts to it. Coming from the Army, what was sort of like the shock for you when you got your foot in the door at Crocs?
I think the most difficult thing that I've found is viewing people as like a precious resource, right? And that's something we've kind of learned, like never leaving a buddy behind or all of those kind of statements we can make up. So, but it is true. Like I care about kind of like the people on my team. I care about I was telling him, right before this is we celebrated for a company that's only been around for 26 years. He just celebrated 20 years at Crocs. And that's something that as an organization, organizations overall, it's when I worked at Pepsi before this too, is we don't really celebrate the people aspect of it. And I think that's something like don't let go of because it's so precious, to a lot of individuals. We have plaques galore behind us inside of our military offices. I have all of, I got 19 things from when I was a company commander, but someone who's been at a company for 20 years is going to walk away kind of relatively empty handed. So there's a lot of, time and energy you can take to let your team know you appreciate them. And that goes so much further here than it ever did before. Yeah, which is really nice.
I love it. I love it. Sorry, I'm getting used to muting myself and then unmuting. When it comes down to it, you obviously have the academic rigor. You clearly have now the resume to sit there and push through it. You know, in your daily life at Crocs, what do you use more? Are you using your Army leadership soft skills? Are you using your hard skills that you've learned? Like, what's that balance breakpoint for those here listening to you today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the opinion degrees just kind of get you in the door, right? They're not actually going to tell you how the business actually operates. I was at CU learning predictive algorithms on how to price things correctly. And now I'm over here, back in Excel. Just like every business in the world, we're always on Excel. So like the hard skills are impressive and they help you get your job, but I think these soft skills where you're actually like talking with people, oh my gosh, the inability for everyone who's just afraid to talk to someone just because their title says COO. It's unbelievable, right? So those hard skills where you're socializing is just that's so much more important than any sort of like coding or anything you could do, honestly. Yeah.
Clay, you're muted.
Gotta love it. Sitting there hitting mute and unmute all the time now. James, yeah, thank you. My apologies about that. Let's talk about, you know, the supply chain and kind of getting it from point A to point B and analyzing that data. Like, what sort of things are you looking for to problem solve in order to bring that deliverable data solution to the table? You have your manufacturing in one country, it's going out to a bunch of other countries as well. Like, what are sort of things that you look for in terms of outliers that you're trying to solve for?
Yeah, I think the number one thing I'm always looking for any sort of like data project is the consistency, and that comes to any sort of extract that we deal with. At the end of the day, I'm looking for systemic, scalable solutions to be able to kind of like deliver all of that into, our internal customers, so internal and external customers. So it's quite interesting whenever you look at kind of like the global data network and all of the timelines that are associated with these is how immediate all of our refreshes and how important everything can be. So as long as everything is coming in consistently, then I'll be quite happy with it, really. I find that for those, once again, who might be working internationally, there's a big culture aspect with like everything that we do, right? And I don't think that's appreciated as much as it is if I'm going to go to Foot Locker here in the US and say like, hey, I'd love to start sharing information with you. I think this is the biggest takeaway is that like I'm going to start my relationship saying like, these are my requirements. Hey, I need this revenue, I need this inventory, and I need it within this particular time series. And they'll provide it to me within like 2 weeks, super quick, easy. If I go to a partner in Japan and I need all of this data, that's going to take
Oh,
so much longer, right? Because the whole conversation becomes, hi, my name is Kyle. Nice to meet you. And we don't have a pre-existing relationship. So they're going to ignore me at first, right? There's a whole culture of like, how do we work? These are our ways of working. These are our ways of, doing things. So you just have to be like very careful depending on who you're talking to get that information really. Yeah.
there's definitely a lot of cultural dynamics you have to play into it as well. And we do have a few questions from the chat, but if you do have questions, guys, don't put them in the chat. Go ahead and raise your hand and ask them out. So, Nicholas, you were the first one. So, why don't you go ahead and come off mute and ask your question?
Let's do it.
Oh, excuse me. Hello. First, thanks for coming on, Kyle. Appreciate you. My question is, if somebody was told you that they were interested in getting into data analytics within the next year, what would you suggest that they focus on? And what would you suggest that they don't focus on? Learning what you've learned over the course of what you've been doing, what would you say to cut out essentially and kind of focus on from a data analytical standpoint?
I think with data analytics, the thing that I saw the biggest improvements for myself is I would take sample data online. This was like in school, and so we would have like projects associated with it. But it really is you can get just about any certification to do this, but just take sample data and just work on visualizations. Because at the end of the day, those reporting tools within Tableau or Power BI or anything else that's the certification that companies want to see. And so that's a very common like interviewing question is like, whenever you're creating visualizations, like what are the things that you're like focusing on? Like what are you trying to avoid versus like stacked particular charts and things like that. So I think if you get good at visualizations and then ignore all of the like AI snake oil. It's a lot of it, honestly, like there's some very impressive things we can be doing, but like by the time you get like really tight on building your own algorithms or anything like that, there's going to be libraries built from people who are doing like PhDs, and we'll be able to just take those libraries that they've built and integrate them within our system, you know. So it's becoming familiar with like what an algorithm is doing, but not necessarily the ability to read it. Because honestly, Copilot and everything else has that writes all my code. So I don't really write code all that much these days. What I do is like I know enough about code to be able to submit what I want it to do. It's going to generate that for me, and then I'm going to have to like QA it quite a bit because it doesn't like know our environment completely. But I would say is like being able to vibe code, but without saying you're a vibe coder. Is the big kind of deal around these days. Because if you're just, so for those who don't know, like vibe coding is like I just tell uh, ChatGPT, hey, do this, and then it's done, right? We got to be able to, analyze and see what's going on here. So just visualizations and yeah.
You actually brought up a big thing that's a hot topic button for us here inside Seven Eagle is that we cannot be reliant on AI all the time. So, there is some QAing that sits there and goes into it and making sure it's actually working for you. So, I'm going to have Elena, I'm going to have you ask that question here in a minute, but Michelle, you have your hand up, so I'm going to sit there. You have the floor.
Hi, Michelle.
I still live on the south side of Denver, so I'm not too far from you.
Wait, Michelle, where are you at?
I'm actually in Highlands Ranch.
Okay, I'm in Lone Tree.
Well, you are my neighbor.
Hi, neighbor. Okay, I did not know that about you, but anyways, we digress. Apologies. Go ahead.
You're good. So I had originally started my degree in data analytics, because I guess in the civilian terms, I was the Navy's business analyst, for almost 8 years. So I love loved helping the Navy figure things out, save them money and stuff like that. I want to incorporate that in my civilian job. I want to go into corporations like you did, hey, where are your shortcomings, I guess, and help you figure those out and make your business grow, make it bigger and everything. So I did. I started mine in the data analytics, and then I'm not a coder at all whatsoever. So in the business side of it, obviously I know what I did in the Navy and it was not that. How much coding would you be doing maybe in a degree with business analytics or just in general?
So within my degree, it was quite advanced. I would say that I became pretty proficient in Python, SQL, and R, essentially. R was a complete waste of time. Python and SQL, a few other languages, they were all a waste of time. I do read SQL every day and DAX every day, which is Power BI's visualization language, though it's very similar to SQL. So I would just say it's like, as long as you know the major, like if you know what a case statement is and you know what switching does, and at the end of the day, I'm just doing select star of these particular like attributes. So it's not that complicated, honestly. Like when I started my MS, I came with zero coding experience and I was able to graduate just fine. Yeah. So, and then it's simplified much more now that I've gotten to the corporate world.
Okay. Yeah, I can read code. I cannot write code. I've tried. That was definitely that was kind of I guess one of maybe my worries of switching I'm switching my degree to business analytics. how
Yeah.
much, if it is coding involved, or as long as I can read it, is that the problem? Because I can use all the applications and I can troubleshoot, but writing the applications is not my forte.
In most organizations, for those who want to get into business analytics, at the end of the day, we're the reporting arm of the data. Like we are facilitators of our entire data lake, and like I know those pipelines and I set them up. But at the end of the day, we have data engineers, just like pretty much every other organization that I've worked with. And the data engineers are the ones who are writing applications. They're the ones that are writing the code. I just need to give them the appropriate like specs and requirements to be able to build what our backend infrastructure looks like. So as an analyst, I'm not really building anything. I'm just kind of like curating the entire environment. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you so much.
Yeah, cool.
Nicholas, you don't have to pop your hand up and down. You can just leave it up, but go ahead and ask your question, sir.
Well, I pop it down because I'm like, maybe I don't want to ask that. And then I change my mind. So for the data analytics standpoint, um, do do you suggest, or are you just presenting the data, right, to companies, and then from that they're taking the information that you're presenting and they're doing their thing with it, right? Or are you like saying, hey, based on these trends and that, this is my suggestion based on analytical data? The reason I asked that, sorry, go
No,
ahead.
please.
Oh,
No, please.
the reason I
please.
was asking that is because I'm actually going for a position that is it's the enterprise innovation lead or something along those
Yeah.
lines. And I'm trying to scope out my position, how that would connect with the data analytics, be something that I would be needing to get into to understand, or, because I've been in the military for 20 years. So it's like all these names are kind of crossing paths for me.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's like all the, I mean, we have more algorithms even on my own team that I don't even know what mean, right? But I will say we curate the data environment. We don't necessarily give the recommendations based off of that. What we'll do is I'll get KPIs from the business. So like finance, that'll be the easiest one to like talk through, is they have their open sales orders, whatever's been pre-booked. I can take the KPIs that like our CFO has told us, and then like I'm taking the data, and then within those KPIs, we're providing the recommendations within it. So if we have so much bookings in March of 2026 right now, and we want more, like we'll already have that information to give the recommendation, but I'm not establishing like baselines. That's for the functional leadership to say we want X number of weeks on hand of supply, or we want X number of sell-through rates, or anything like that for retail traffic. So we're just coming up with the answers that they've already stated the questions for, really. But lots of investigation sometimes, not necessarily the analysis.
And you would have to have, just because I'm thinking, because I'm a business systems analyst, you would have to have a working knowledge of like order to cash flows and stuff like that, right, Kyle?
Yeah, and then so our team is functionally aligned, at least for our corporate headquarters. So Crocs, we operate based out of Broomfield, Colorado. And so here in Broomfield, our team has a finance lead, has a planning lead, has a digital lead. And so those digital leads are a little bit more in tune with kind of like those functional requirements. Mine necessarily within the international side, as we support all the functions. And I know I'm not an expert on the digital and retail and everything else side. So I just kind of let my my leadership that I work with tell me what they're looking for, really.
Yeah, I can speak from experience. It's not something that's really that fun. Let's see here. A couple of questions from the chat. Someone did want to sit there and ask a little bit more about MBA rotational programs. Elena, is that what you're asking? You want to kind of know what that would look like per se, and you want Kyle to talk about his experience?
Yeah, hi Kyle. I wasn't really a question. I guess I was more interested because I didn't really know. I might be the only one that didn't know about, MBA rotational programs. So yeah, I was just curious, just a little bit about that. I've been researching as you've been talking because I'm interested.
Yeah. Yeah, so we actually we no longer have an MBA one here at Crocs. We have an undergrad rotation here at Crocs for those who either just recently graduated or had already graduated and were looking for more kind of within a specific domain where they want to go into. Because there could be 50 people on this call who want to go into finance, but what does, finance necessarily look like? We have, within Crocs, we have tax, we have accounting, we have planning, we have supply chain finance, we have digital finance. There's just so many elements within all of these organizations, that these jobs that we just don't know exist, right? So coming out of school, from my personal experience of it, was most mid-sized companies and large companies had these rotation programs where generally you're aligning to a domain. So whether it be marketing or planning or anything like that. And within those domains, you could do, for myself, it was 4 6-month rotations. And then within those rotations, I would get, a broad range of experience where it was like special project space. And then after 6 months, you would just go to the next one. And then just kind of like see more of the business as you're going through it. And then you're trying to add value to the company by, special projects they wouldn't normally see or outside eyes, or it's just, there's always an analyst in this role and they're just like backfilling it necessarily. So we have a finance rotation program here at Crocs that's been quite successful for people to go into FP&A or things like that. But I know myself and a few of my peers coming out of our MBA ended up with it, and we were all, pretty happy with where our careers ended up.
I love it. These are really
Thank
great
you, Kyle.
questions, guys.
Yeah.
I love these questions. I mean, ask away. I mean, you guys know that I'm a data nerd, so this is like a big thing for me. So who else has questions? A lot of them are asking, are you wearing Crocs right now, or are you wearing, hey, yeah, there we go.
Every day, wear them into the office. I got about 100 pairs. So if anyone needs any, please take them.
I'm pretty sure
my wife doesn't want them in the house anymore.
You sit there and walk in with a pair of like dress shoes. I'm pretty sure everyone in the office would be like, who is that guy?
Not a thing. We all wear Crocs around the office. Hey Dude was a big deal whenever we bought them a few years ago.
That was a really interesting deal. Were you there when that happened or no?
Yes. Yeah. So
because I know a bunch of people from Hey Dude that were like, oh my gosh, can't believe it. That's a vertical that must be explosive for you. I mean, what was that like?
For those on the call, mergers and acquisitions can be a very interesting process to be a part of within an organization. So Crocs, casual style footwear, bought Hey Dude, which is another casual style footwear, a few years ago, assuming that, we had a lot of similar kind of brand values and traits, and the companies would integrate together. What's interesting about any mergers, this is all public information, it's happened over a few years.
Yeah.
So I feel very comfortable saying this, is there's difficulties within any merger, and then we can expect some things to change. My own personal experience with this is a lot of our shared services were not affected whenever you're doing anything. So IT, we were supporting Crocs as a whole. We ingested Hey Dude quite easy. It was kind of for our marketers and planners, those who had, this role within Hey Dude, this role within Crocs is, whenever you acquire somebody, you're kind of looking for efficiencies. So, lost roles and things like that. But it's kind of funny for those within businesses is, they're both casual footwears, but mine's foam injected on a Crocs, based out of generally Southeast Asia, China, the Philippines, Vietnam. That's where we make all of our Crocs, to a manufactured shoe, which is Hey Dude. You join an industry, you learn all about it, by the way. So in case you end up in the gummy bear industry, I'm sure you'll be able to talk about gummy bears like this here soon. So I'm in the footwear industry now. And so both of those products are actually, it's foam injected versus manufactured. And so the company will have a lot of difficulty, and even with the most different processes, it affects everyone within the organization. So my data comes from all of these systems within Crocs, and then it comes within completely separate systems within Hey Dude. So mergers are a bit of a nightmare. Some people are going to lose their jobs. Your work's going to double, but hey, you get a free discount, so it's not so bad.
That was, like I remember I had a friend who worked for Hey Dude, and she was like, oh my gosh, and now she's thriving, loving it for sure. But when did you, I kind of want to sit there and like if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing? Yeah, where would be like if like the role lined up absolutely perfectly for like that dream organization, and like if you weren't with Crocs and loving it and thriving in Crocs, what do you think you would be doing right now?
So I'll say big PSA to everyone on the call is my first reaction is like, I love my job. I'll stay with Crocs all day because they've been really good to me, you know. So if you're interested, crocs.com/careers. If you're looking for a role, reach out. But I think I'd be in the Denver area in the outdoor industry. You know, my biggest fear, or I had two giant fears coming out of the military. One of them was healthcare because you just go to TRICARE and you're done, right? You know, so I had no idea what does health insurance look like. It's not hard, by the way. Uh, and then my second fear was just like finding a job, and we're all working. We're all the same dumb people, you know. So I'm sure I'd be in an outdoor industry job here in Colorado, and we're all working, you know. So, but staying in Crocs, PSA, apply to
Yeah,
Crocs.
yeah. So if Oval Meyer reached out to you tomorrow, it'd probably be a no. There you go. I like it. I want to talk about your summer internship real quick with PepsiCo because that's a very interesting thing, and I do recommend people look into this. How vital was that internship for you, who already had 6 years of real world experience, kind of shape and mold you to the trajectory where you're at right now?
I mean, it's incredibly important. I think those who can get a job before like your real job, you know, comes in helps understand like the pace of life outside of the military and the pace of kind of like conversations. As it works, things happen much slower in the corporate world versus which is funny to say coming from the army where things can be incredibly slow just for the nature of it being government work. But like processes are different. Everything's different, you know, when you get out, you're wearing what do you wear on day one, right? You know, there's all of these anxieties we have transitioning. And it's all just easy. I had a boss one time. We lost an M4 when I was a company commander. Someone stole it. I had to go to federal court and testify in this at one point in my life. And I remember him one day being like, "Hey, man, did anybody die?" And I was just like, "Well, no, sir." Blah, blah, blah. And he was like, "Then we're okay. Who cares?" Amazing boss, right? We don't all have those in the military. Battalion commander saying, "Who cares if an M4 was stolen?" But like now, day to day, like I sell plastic shoes. Like I'm not stressed, you know. There's stress that we carry when we're in the military because everything's important, and you're the UCMJ, and I'm gonna get a bad OER. You know, it all doesn't matter. Now it's like I just get to show up, do my work, and people are happy. Yeah, people are much happier now. That's for sure. I forgot the question.
But how did that internship at PepsiCo help you?
Oh, it just relaxed me, you know. Just get out of the military pace of life. Yeah, which is necessary. Yeah. Everything's not as important to everyone else is what we realize over time. That's for sure.
That's definitely a big thing. I see some people thinking about a question, but I guess maybe not. James, you keep sitting there looking like you're about to have a question, and then you pause out. Do you have a question for him?
Nope, no question from me.
Okay, you're just absorbing. I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, let's talk about the military experience and going into data analytics. As soldiers, as officers, as warrant officers, we have to make decisions with 80% clarity. In business analytics, the goal is often 100%. How do you balance your military decisiveness into corporate data gathering?
It completely changes the dynamic on our team. Um, I think what makes everybody on this call a standout applicant, and I think something worth highlighting, is your ability to make decisions, the ability to understand give and take within kind of like those decisions that you do make. 90% of the time within my own team, I'm going to be the individual who says, like, just deliver a product, right? We want to do a minimum viable product. What's my MVP? what can I deliver to a stakeholder and get it to them? Versus like the analysts on my team, they're very like detail oriented, which is perfect, right? And so that's what my role, coming from the military is to be able to, conduct an operation is to say like, at the end of the day, I'm trying to, provide this to a customer in order to receive this benefit. And so without your own ability to say like, this is something that I can do, I can make decisions. It's actually a very, very marketable skill, really.
I love that. I love that. Um, you know, to the logisticians in the room and for those who have the logistics background, you know, is supply chain one of the easiest bridges to, to the civilian market, or should they be looking at maybe something broader?
I mean, I'd say don't limit yourself. The industry is so much, we even within our own supply chain, there's going to be 12 different functions within it. I'll say for those who are, big in GRB and everything like that. I mean, the logistics operates definitely differently. I know my personal logistics experience was almost dismissed over time. They want to know about my people skills so much more than like my system skills, at the end of the day.
I like it. I like it a lot. Um, when it comes down to obviously influencing without authority is a big thing in the day in the life with you. You know, were you taking a lot of your Army experience and bringing that influencing functionality to the table, or were you just picking it up as you were trying different things and moving on?
No, I mean, I would say for everyone in the group too, it's very easy to not say no. And that's something that I think from the Army, we've gained the ability to a little bit be a little more stern, a little bit more realistic. Or that's just me, I don't know. But I think in the ability to influence and say, no, this doesn't work can be very difficult within our own like hierarchical structure. I have to report to a director who reports to a VP who reports to the CIO at the end of the day. And if the CIO comes up with something, then we need to figure it out. But the ability to be like, well, our data doesn't say this. Like it's impossible to provide these answers because we don't collect this shipped date information or something like that. So the ability to influence rank, I think that's, I mean, another thing on this call, something that you can kind of say is like I've presented to, a one-star general, but like a one-star general to my HR person means nobody. But it's like I've presented to, this level of authority and I'm willing to like say that this is a plan for X, Y, and Z, they want to understand that you can brief to leadership, it's a big deal around here. That's for sure. You don't get that many opportunities. I got a lot more opportunities in the Army than I do now. So something to keep practicing talking to your boss.
Yeah. Now, you're probably a hiring manager, am I correct? That
Yep.
assessment. So let's say I have a Joshua Bibb who is from the United States Air Force, and they put the, resume together, they met with the recruiter and everything like that, and the resume then lands into your inbox. What are you looking for that in terms of that resume?
So the number one thing from a military resume that I'm looking for is for you to not be saying that you've run the world when I know you haven't. If I get a resume from someone who was a team leader in Iraq, perfect example, right? I'm just like, I know what that person has done. I know the job that they've done, and it's an impressive job. And I'm like, you can frame that in a way. But if you sit there and tell me, like, I was in charge of $600 million of equipment, it's all like broken down Humvees and stuff like that, or I, did this and did that, and it's been the most incredible thing in the world. It's like, there's going to be enough people that can read through the bullshit in a resume. So just be honest, right? I'm going to read through your bullshit immediately. And if I see that, I'm just going to throw that resume away because I mean, that's what the recruiters will say is like, we only have like a minute to look at a resume. I don't have that long. I'm going to look at a resume for like 30 seconds. Is something going to catch my eye? And we're going to go into the yes or no bucket. So just, I mean, don't lie too much on your resumes. I don't lie at all. That works too, right?
Integrity is key, 100%.
It's the amount that I catch. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And there's going to be a lot. I mean, and especially with AI out there, that's the one thing that I work with the students here is like, be honest. Yeah, you might be in charge of a couple of $1 million of stuff. That might be impressive to some, but know your audience when you're writing that resume, right?
Yeah.
Drop some ones into the chat real quick. Does that make sense to everybody?
Don't say that you like know a language. Like at the end of the day, like when I conduct an interview, I'll like also be like, oh, here's a SQL question. And then if that's on their resume and they'll be like, oh, I can read SQL, and then they can't, it's also not going to work, right? So it's crazy. It's constant.
I hate looking at SQL tables, to be honest with you, but it is something that I've had to do in the past. Mr. Wynn, my favorite Marine, why don't you come off of, you are off of mute. The floor is yours. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, for that question, I have one question. Like for my aspect of view, like we are like maintaining the guardian, the security of the instrument, and then also we survey the airfield. That one is like World War II. The It's like a World War II airfield. So we are like surveying, like making everything is fine for the C-130 landing and like taking off, So that is like kind of project we working with like a lot of people, but it's a kind of we can prove it, that one is also in the news. And also another thing is like I was on like a lot of like what's called like airfield project, something like air show or something like that. So like making sure of the like every airplane from the Navy, the landing is like making secure, like that is like I don't know, like should I put it in there or no? Like
I
that.
mean, feel free. I'll say, I mean, even when I was interviewing for this particular role, I guess this is more of the real world example, is I said I was a company commander. So I was in charge of X number of people, right? I am a senior manager here at Crocs. I'm in charge of 7 people now. Big deal, right? And so, big deal, air quotes, everybody. But there's major concerns of like, am I overqualified to join this rotation program? Because I said I was in charge of all these people as a company commander, right? So it's about managing those expectations. Like that's also just like what the military does, So it's a fine line to walk. It's very difficult. But I mean, you can just don't frame it saying I A saved the world and B did nothing. There's a middle. There's a middle in there. Just be honest. That's it.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Yeah. I mean, leading with integrity on your resume is the most important thing. We only got a couple of minutes left, and I don't want to take up any more of your time. For those who are, skill bridging, looking for OJT, looking to transition, what is one habit from your military service that you left at the door? And then what is that one true one sentence statement of a military habit that you kept and has let you thrive?
Shaving. Yeah, didn't keep up with shaving, that's for sure. Let's see the chat now. Left at the door. I mean, I honestly left getting worked up about stuff. I just don't care anymore. It's like I don't. That is a military habit, right? Is stress. At least it was at the time. So, but yeah, stressing over other people's missteps. Oh, that's a perfect thing. I don't give a shit if someone else. I'm sorry, excuse me. I don't care at all. Unless it's on my team and they're like, we're gonna fix it, right? But yeah, just like taking life a little bit more pleasantly. But I mean, in terms of like a habit, I can't believe the amount of people that aren't on time anymore. It's the dumbest thing to say, and it's so simple. But like, I had a meeting 10:30, and I was the only one there that was on time. I think it's really important. I think especially when you're meeting like higher level individuals, it just saying what you're gonna do. That's all you gotta do. Just do what you're gonna say.
I love it, 100%. Got a couple of seconds left, and then I got to kick these guys out for a break. But any closing words, any closing thoughts, words of wisdom that you want to drop on these guys? Because I go ahead. I apologize.
Oh, sorry. Life is great at Crocs. If you go onto the website, feel free to reach out to me, throw me on LinkedIn. I don't check it too often, but when I'm there, I'll accept you. But if you're looking for a role, I'm more than happy to refer anybody who's qualified into a role. Yeah, and anytime really. So I can be a point of reference here in the Front Range of Colorado.
I am dropping the careers page right into the chat right now so that way I can take a look at it. And like I said to you earlier, I do stock it every now and then, but do greatly appreciate your time, Kyle. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely be in touch for sure because, being a Colorado person, I know how much Crocs is in terms of a great culture organization, and everything that you do is remarkable. So for those of us here at Seven Eagle, thank you very much for your time today. It was great to see you this morning, meet with you, and be able to bring that wisdom to everyone that is here. And have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you for your time.
Hey, good luck, everybody.